Victoria White doesn't love me. She won't hold our child. She doesn't care about my career. Whenever a reporter brings me up in public, she just presses her lips together and says nothing. During another one of our fights, I asked her with a bitter smile, Victoria, am I not even worth mentioning to your friends? Is it because I'm not presentable enough or because I'm not good enough for you? Her eyes would always turn red as she tried to explain. Leo, please don't make a scene. Can you just wait a little longer? I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Then let's get a divorce. The day I was rushed into surgery for a medical emergency was the same day our son was born via surrogate. Victoria was nowhere to be found. As I came to from the anesthesia, I looked at the baby in the bassinet beside me, then shifted my gaze to Victoria's aunt. She was frowning, dialing a number over and over again, but the call never went through. Auntie, please stop calling, okay? The situation felt more and more ridiculous. She's not coming back. Today was the first stop on violinist Julian Vance's UK tour. Last night, after pulling an all-nighter to wrap up a major project, Victoria didn't even come home. She booked the first flight to London just to see her Old Flames opening night. My phone screen lit up silently, pushing a news alert. Violinist Julian Vance's first tour stop a resounding success. I put on my headphones and played the interview video. On camera, Julian smiled confidently. He was handsome in a champagne-colored suit, his smile warm and gentle. Thank you, everyone. I'm thrilled to kick off the tour here and to receive such a wonderful response. It's my greatest honor. A reporter followed up with a smile. Mr. Vance, we saw many industry veterans backstage supporting you. Who would you most like to thank? Julian gave the camera a gentle smile. I'm incredibly grateful to all the mentors and friends who came. He paused for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. But this time, the person I want to thank the most is a friend I've known for many, many years. Julian looked up, his eyes fixed on the lens. There's so much I don't know how to say to her in person, so I'll take this special opportunity today. A faint tremor entered his voice. He seemed to choke up for a second. Even though back then we went our separate ways due to circumstances beyond our control, in my heart, she will always be my best friend. I want her to know that I've always known she is a very, very good person. My heart stopped for a beat. A numbness spread to my fingertips. I opened the comment section. It was flooded with top-rated posts. OMG, Julian Vance is totally talking about Victoria White, right? It's so obvious. Definitely her. They were such a perfect couple back in the day. The violin prodigy and the high society heiress. Total old money tragic romance goals. Who's he kidding? You can see in his eyes he's still in love. Sobbing. You never get over the one that got away. Her first love is her first love. No one. We can compete. Victoria White is so devoted. She flew out overnight just for his concert. Turns out even powerful CEOs have someone they can't let go of. I bet Mr. Knight is fuming in his hospital bed. LMAO, that's what he gets for marrying someone who never got over her ex losing to the ex, is so embarrassing. But it's not like Leo Knight has any right to be upset. It was just a marriage of convenience that can't compete with true love. Every word was a mockery aimed at me. I turned off my phone, my last hope extinguished. Victoria White is my wife. Julian Vance is the man she loved so passionately in her youth, and I'm just a joke. That night, the door to my room was suddenly pushed open. I looked up. Victoria was standing in the doorway. She wore a sharp women's suit, but her hair was a mess and there were dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, our eyes met. I looked away. The baby nurse was holding our son, cooing at him. Seeing Victoria, she smiled. Congratulations, Ms. White. It's a boy. Victoria glanced at the child, her expression flat. Is he healthy? Mrs. Davis, the nurse, had expected Victoria to want to hold the baby and started to hand him over. But Victoria had no intention of taking him. Mrs. Davis awkwardly pulled her hands back. All his vitals are normal. Even though he was premature, his weight is good, so he doesn't need an incubator. Victoria nodded. Thank you for your hard work. Could you take the baby out for a bit? I need to speak with Leo. Then, in a business-like tone, she instructed her assistant standing at the door, contact the PR department and prepare a statement announcing the birth of a son to the heir of the White Group. Also, using the list I finalized, donate a total of 100 million in batches to the various charities. And that foundation proposal I wrote can be implemented. Start the process tomorrow. Victoria was always methodical. She never showed any emotion. Even faced with the birth of a new life, she showed no excitement or agitation. She just kept arranging everything in her usual orderly fashion. I once thought that maybe, just maybe, I was different to her, even just a little. After all, I loved her so much. But in the end, I had overestimated my own importance. The assistant closed the door on her way out. The huge room was silent, save for the sound of Victoria and me breathing. The scent of the white and green roses on the table hung in the air, but the atmosphere was unbearably heavy. Victoria walked closer, her face full of apology. I'm sorry I didn't get back in time. I was on the plane all day. I didn't see the calls or messages. Victoria, I said, my voice far calmer than I'd expected. Let's get a divorce. What? Victoria froze, a look of sheer disbelief in her eyes. Leo, are you joking with me? Under the lights, her exhaustion seemed even more pronounced. I know I let you down, but I truly didn't mean for it to happen. Leo, I had planned everything. As soon as I finished that project proposal, I was going to take a break from work and stay home with you. I never thought you'd have a sudden medical emergency. I never thought you'd almost die on the operating table. I'm sorry I was careless. Victoria spoke earnestly, her logic clear, with a sincerity that felt like it belonged in a business negotiation. If I weren't Leo Knight, if I hadn't waited for her for years, if I hadn't seen that interview, maybe I would have believed her. But now I was done lying to myself. I cut her off, taking a deep breath to control my emotions. Victoria, that's not the reason. It was never the reason. Victoria didn't try to explain further, but she didn't leave either. She sat on the sofa by the window and casually took a laptop out of her briefcase, as if she were handling work or maybe reading her own tabloid news. Her staying here was a silent apology, an attempt to de-escalate the situation. But what I needed was never any of this. The hospital room was quiet, filled only with the sound of our breathing. Julian Vance said Victoria was a very, very good person. Perhaps she was, but her goodness was saved for someone else. When they were young, Victoria liked Julian. After she married me, she never mentioned his name again. But with me, she was never passionate, always distant. Victoria, my voice was painfully hoarse. Get out. I don't want to see you. And get a divorce agreement drawn up as soon as possible. This time I was setting Victoria free, and I was setting myself free. From outside the door, our son's wails pierced the air. Mrs. Davis brought the baby to me, and I patiently soothed him. Guilt was nearly killing me. I thought my son would be the happiest child in the world. I would give him a great family, always cherish him, love him unconditionally, and give him the best of everything. My relationship with Victoria had been improving. I thought we were finally on the right track. Apparently not. My son was born into my hopeful anticipation. I thought his mother would be just as overjoyed at his arrival. But reality slapped me hard across the face. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. Outside, the rain had stopped at some point. I took the bottle Mrs. Davis handed me and carefully placed it at Noah's lips. Noah, that's the name I gave him. His mother, it seemed, did not welcome him. But that was okay. Even without Victoria, my own family was more than wealthy. As long as I was alive, I could ensure my son a life of luxury. I wasn't asking for anything else. I just hoped he could live a happy and peaceful life. The next day at noon, there was a knock on the door. A woman introduced herself as an employee from Victoria's company named Lily. Lily had a sharp, short haircut, dimples when she smiled, and a very friendly demeanor. She was holding a bouquet of pink roses, so fresh you could almost squeeze water from them. Good morning, Mr. Knight. Ms. White ordered these flowers especially for you. I just picked them up from the florist. She worked quickly, filling a vase with water and arranging the flowers one by one. Next, she took a velvet jewelry box from her tote bag and placed it on. The table next to me was opened carefully. Mr. Knight, Ms. White personally bid on this at an auction last month. She said emeralds are your favorite. Before me lay a dazzling emerald ring. The emerald at its center was impressively large, surrounded by a halo of smaller diamonds that glittered with fire. Anyone could see it was a high-quality piece, perfect for a collection. In the past, I might have been happy thinking Victoria was paying more attention to me. But after yesterday, I would never flatter myself again. That kind of humiliation was something you only needed to endure once. Ms. White was incredibly busy at the time, but she went to Christie's herself. She said she wanted to prepare a surprise for you with her own hands. Thank you, I said, not refusing the gift. The girl seemed bright and spirited, without a trace of the weariness you see in most office workers. She must have just started her job. I didn't want any more entanglements with Victoria, but why make things difficult for an employee? Victoria didn't have any male secretaries or assistants. She said she wasn't good at interacting with the opposite sex. This girl must have been pulled from the front desk. If I didn't accept, she'd have to explain it to Victoria. Failing a task would be a blow to the young woman. Mr. Knight, Ms. White has several meetings today that she couldn't postpone, so she asked me to come. Don't worry, she'll come see you and the baby as soon as she can tonight. Her expression was a little conflicted. I nodded to show I understood. Looking at the priceless jewel, enough to make any man's heart skip a beat, I suddenly felt tired. The ring wasn't a gift, it was compensation. Victoria was trying to smooth things over to make up for my hurt. She always did this. Every conflict between us, every time I was disappointed in her, would always end with her trying to fix it this way. Victoria always thought money and material things could mend any emotional crack, could fill any emotional void. But if what I loved was money, why would I have married her when she was at her lowest point? All I ever wanted was her love. Victoria once told me she could learn to return my feelings. I believed her, but in the end, it was all just one big disappointment. The baby suddenly woke up, lying there surprisingly not crying or fussing. Lily's attention was captivated. Wow, he's so cute. How can a newborn be so fair and have such a high nose bridge? Mr. Knight, I'm so jealous of you and Ms. White. You get to come home to such a handsome baby. I smiled and thanked her, but the joy was followed by a vast sense of desolation. Victoria didn't like this child. Why would she be happy to see him? Mrs. Davis took the baby out of the room. Lily, I said, looking up at her, finally deciding to speak. Thank you for making the trip. When you get back to the office, could you give her a message for me? Lily's expression suddenly turned serious. Of course, Mr. Knight. Tell her that everything I said last night was real. I met Lily's eyes directly. I want a divorce. It wasn't a bluff. It never was. When I love someone, I'm willing to give my all. When I stop loving someone, I will do everything I can to pull away. Not a single word I said was false. Mr. Knight, Lily lost her earlier composure, her voice trembling slightly. Did you say a divorce? Yes, I confirmed again. Saying it out loud felt like a weight had been lifted from my chest. It was no longer stuck there, stabbing me with pain. Please tell her to prepare the divorce agreement as soon as possible. At this point, I was done loving Victoria White. This long journey toward her was over. I was ending it unilaterally. Maybe it should have been this way from the start. I should have given up 5 years ago when I walked toward her without hesitation, and she never returned my affection. All these years of waiting felt like an absurd play. The only way to fix it was to completely erase Victoria's name from my life. Lily was silent for a very long time. Then she looked at me with an incredibly serious expression. Mr. Knight, there's something I've been debating whether or not to tell you. Actually, Ms. White doesn't have any meetings today. She pushed all her work. She came to the hospital early this morning, but was afraid of upsetting you, so she's been waiting in the hallway this whole time. It was only then that she called me and asked me to come to the hospital to deliver some things for her. I only found out it was the flowers and the ring after I got here. I leaned back quietly, waiting for Lily to continue. When I saw Ms. White sitting out there, I guess you two had a fight. And I was right. She said she wanted to apologize, but didn't know how. At first, I tried to convince her to come in herself and clear things up. But Ms. White said she was afraid seeing her would make you angrier, so in the end, she wouldn't come in. After she finished, the atmosphere in the room turned awkward. Lily quickly added a few more sentences. Mr. Knight, please don't get the wrong idea. I don't usually have much contact with Ms. White. I'm a receptionist at the company. She probably asked me to come because she sees me every time she comes to the office, so my face is familiar. I swear we normally never talk. At most, she might casually ask what kind of gift to get for her husband or how to apologize to someone. But she didn't just ask me. Ms. White asked our entire reception staff and her whole team of secretaries and assistants. When Lily finished, I smiled at her. Don't worry, I won't get the wrong idea. And I certainly wouldn't misunderstand. I'm not a petty person. I don't see a woman talking to Victoria and immediately suspect an affair. Lily was a very, very good person. From the moment she walked in, full of warmth, I knew the concern in her eyes was real. Victoria was good, 1 in a million. But that didn't mean everyone was in love with her. I wouldn't misunderstand Lily. For all these years, the only person who stood in my heart was Julian Vance. Julian Vance. What kind of person was he? I had Al if it weren't for the sensational rumors about his romance with Victoria. I probably would have never even noticed someone like him existed at our school. Before I met Julian, Victoria, and our childhood friends. Our families lived close by, and we grew up together. As the only grandchild of the prestigious White family of Boston, she was destined to never know hardship. But in the end, she wasn't lucky enough. Victoria's parents had a marriage of convenience. There was no love between them. Her mother was busy having affairs with movie stars. Her father, warped by day after day of suspicion and resentment, became a completely different person. The doctors said he had bipolar disorder. In the 5th year of their 10-year marriage, they had Victoria. After that, Victoria's mother became even more unrestrained. Having a child meant her duty was done. She had no interest in the family business and only wanted a child so her parents could skip her and cultivate the next generation's heir. Once that goal was achieved, Victoria's mother never came home again, starting a new family elsewhere. Victoria's father was deeply in love with his wife and had given her all his affection. Even Victoria's birth was a ploy to use a child to keep his wife from leaving, but it backfired, giving his wife an excuse to never come home. For this reason, Victoria's father didn't love his own child. He even hated her, resentfully questioning why Victoria even existed. Victoria grew up unwanted. That's why she cherished every single one of her friends. When we were young, I always trailed after Victoria. Back then, we were each other's best friends. But later, everything changed. Freshman year of high school, a new student transferred into the class next door. That person was Julian Vance. After transferring, he became Victoria's desk mate. Victoria never liked talking to strangers, but her new desk mate was impossibly outgoing. He latched onto her from the very first day, asking for help with math problems, borrowing her lunch card, her water card, and taking her notes without permission when they barely knew each other. Then, just as Victoria and I were almost home, he chased after us to apologize and to return the notebook. And just like that, he found out where Victoria lived. Victoria rarely showed her emotions, but that day I could tell she was angry. She hated people touching her things, but disliked confrontation. And so, Julian Vance bulldozed his way into Victoria's life. After that, Victoria's attitude toward him gradually softened. When I turned 16, I invited Victoria to my birthday party. She didn't come, but Julian Vance did. In the break room, Julian knocked on my door, holding a cheap gift. You must be the Leo that Victoria's always talking about. She says you two are really close, and that she's always thought of you as a little brother. Before I could say anything, Julian pressed a snow globe into my hand. Let me introduce myself. I'm Victoria's desk mate and her boyfriend. Don't tell anyone, okay? We're just freshmen, and she doesn't want to go public yet. She's afraid people will keep asking questions, and it'll affect my studies. When I asked why Victoria didn't come, Julian smiled and defended her. Don't be sad. You're both older now, so Victoria thinks it's not really appropriate for you two to be as close as you used to be. It was all so matter of fact. His words were laced with an unspoken message for me to back off. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. Late into the night, I still hadn't received a birthday wish for Victoria. I finally messaged her myself. Is Julian Vance your boyfriend? That day, I felt like a clown. I waited until dawn the next day, but no reply from Victoria ever came. That small, undeclared crush I had was snuffed out just like that. The next day, I agreed to my father's suggestion to attend high school abroad. After I went overseas, I would often receive all sorts of holiday wishes from Victoria. Birthday wishes, New Year wishes, holiday greetings. But the question I had asked that night never received an answer. We both tacitly forgot about that night's question, and I never replied to any of Victoria's messages again. Julian showing up uninvited to my birthday party was a clear declaration of his claim. I had no desire to be part of their jealous drama. When we were little, people would often joke that Victoria and I were inseparable, like a match made in heaven, and suggest we get married when we grew up. Victoria never argued. She never seemed unhappy about it. So back then, I thought she might have liked me a little too. But on my 16th birthday, I was made into a complete and utter joke. After spending 7 years abroad, I returned home with 2 first-class degrees to take over my parents' company. I hadn't been living under a rock all those years. I often kept up with news from home. Victoria and Julian's romance was occasionally a topic of discussion, and I always deliberately ignored it. After graduating, Victoria went to the U.S. Julian somehow scraped together enough money to attend a community college abroad. I heard they broke up that year. The internet was full of posts praising their love story as a tragic romance aesthetic. The 3 of us had almost no contact for many years. At 24, my father started arranging dates for me. I was unenthusiastic, deliberately sabotaging many of the meetings. My parents' business was huge, and my resume was impressive, so there were far too many people who wanted to form a marriage alliance with me. But my heart felt dead. I couldn't muster any interest in anyone. Later, after Victoria inherited her family's business, she came to me. She proposed herself. In that moment, I was completely lost. I didn't understand. I truly didn't understand why she was so cold when I liked her. And why, after I had faded from her life, did she insist on forcing her way back in? When I asked her why, Victoria was silent for a long time. Finally, the answer she gave was that we were a good match. Our families were on equal footing, and we had a lot of history. I had excelled in both my studies and my career, and she was highly accomplished herself. We were equally outstanding. That year, my grandmother fell gravely ill and didn't have much time left. Her only dying wish was to see me married. It was that same year that Victoria was betrayed by a relative and nearly lost control of her company. It seemed like fate itself was pushing us together. But I wasn't about to rashly hand over my emotions in my marriage. During a meeting with Victoria, I told her plainly, money? I have it. More than enough. My family's standing in our social circle wouldn't decline just because I didn't marry into another powerful family. What I wanted was love. If a marriage was just a business transaction, we would be better off as business partners, not husband and wife. Victoria looked up at me, her gaze sincere. It's absolutely not for personal gain, Leo. The love you want, I can give it to you. I left her with one last sentence. Come talk to me about love when you're truly over him. In the adult world, no one cares if you've dated before marriage. But the moment you decide to get married, you should emotionally cut ties with the past. I didn't want any hidden dangers in my marriage. That night, Victoria showed up at my door. She said, Leo, my heart is clean. I believed her. I really believed her. And then one wrong step led to another and another. After Noah's 1-month celebration, I brought up divorce again. Holding the divorce agreement, I went back to the old white family mansion. I waited until noon, but Victoria still hadn't come out of the 3rd floor study. Left with no choice, I used my key to open the door. Victoria's head snapped up almost instantly. The movement so fast it knocked over the inkwell on her desk. Black ink spilled across the book's pages, leaving a stain. Leo, Victoria's voice was impossibly hoarse. She came around the desk and hurried toward me. Before she could even speak, her eyes reddened instantly. Leo, please don't divorce me, okay? I stared at her without a word. Victoria seemed to summon all her courage and grab my hand. Leo, those entertainment headlines were all fake. That day, I went to London for a contract, not to see his concert. I didn't even know Julian had a concert that day. I was there to negotiate a deal. I had no idea the business partner was Julian's wife. She casually mentioned her husband had a concert nearby and invited me to go along. The company had been pursuing that contract for a long time. The whole team put in so much effort. Leo, I had no reason to refuse. But I swear I didn't know her husband was Julian Vance, and I didn't know I would see him. As for those romantic-looking clips online, the shots of us looking at each other, that was all just clever editing with music and filters to create a mood. Leo, I can promise you there's nothing between Julian and me. I have never liked him. I pull my hand away. Victoria, is there any point? A flicker of defeat crossed Victoria's face. Leo, don't you believe me? She spoke quickly, rummaging through a drawer in her desk for documents, her fingertips trembling. Here's the entire project proposal. The company did a review after every milestone. There are records of every single meeting. And this is my schedule. The trip to London to meet the partner was planned long ago. The project was nearing its end, and we just needed one face-to-face meeting to finalize the contract. Victoria, I pushed all the documents back toward her, showing me this is useless. Why is it that the countless times I needed an explanation, you were never willing to say a word? And now that I've decided to leave, you're telling me it was all fake? You had countless opportunities to clear up your past with me, but you didn't. From my surgery until now, with Noah a month old, you've had a whole month to deal with those rumors. You have the power to take down those news stories, the power to issue a clarification. You're capable of all of it. So why didn't you do anything? You just come and tell me it was all fake. I started to speak, but I cut her off. Victoria, do you think I'm supposed to just blindly trust you forever? Even when the whole world is singing praises of your love for another man. I'm supposed to just believe you unconditionally? Then what does that make me? Your accessory. Arguing with Victoria, I suddenly remembered so many things from the past. Our first public appearance after getting married. I had waited for Victoria to introduce her husband to everyone, but she didn't. She just silently put food on my plate and spoke to me calmly. Later, I asked her, Victoria, am I not even worth introducing to your friends? Am I not worthy, or do you think I'm not good enough for you? Am I some kind of embarrassment? Victoria calmly explained, Leo, it's not like that. You are worthy. It's just, can we wait a little longer? Back then I gave in, but I've given in too many times. I don't want any more. At the mention of the past, the color drained from Victoria's face. Leo, is that what you think? You think I don't introduce you because I'm ashamed of you? Then why? I practically shouted. Victoria, what the hell am I supposed to think? It's not like I didn't give you chances to explain, but you always just said I was misunderstanding, that I should just wait. I waited 5 whole years for you. Are my 5 years worthless? Not even worth a single explanation from my own wife. Victoria looked as if she'd been struck by an invisible hammer, her face pale. It's not like that, Leo. I never thought that. I felt like I wasn't good enough for you. Victoria struggled to lift her head, tears streaming down her face. Leo, I like you. I love you, but I never thought I could truly have you. Being married to you has always felt like a fragile dream. You're so wonderful. Your family loves you. Your friends like you. So many people love you. In my heart, you are a very, very good person. I felt like I was punching above my weight. I kept waiting until I truly deserved to stand by your side before I introduce you to everyone. Only then would I truly be worthy of you, and not just the second best option you settled for. So your grandmother could pass away in peace. A suffocating silence filled the air. I actually laughed. For these 5 years, I've been a fool, always trying to guess what was on Victoria's mind. How many times did I wait for her to find time to talk to me, hoping she would say just a few more words? But I waited and waited, and Victoria's life was always so crowded I never got an answer. Countless times I even thought maybe I should just give up. I don't need some elusive fairy tale love. So many people in our circle have marriages of convenience. Victoria is an excellent partner for such a marriage. We're compatible in every way, the optimal choice for each other, and she was someone I once liked. Wouldn't it be fine for us to just live respectfully like this? But people are greedy. Once you get a little, you want more. I got the person I liked. Then I tried to see into her heart. In the day-to-day cycle of testing and doubting, I lost all my patience. Victoria stood there, her head bowed. It felt so ridiculous. I wanted to storm out, but I bumped into a bookshelf. A thick binder fell from the top shelf, scattering its contents on the floor. My eyes immediately fell on a photograph of me. My childhood solo portrait, my first grade school picture, a photo of me and Victoria together when we were kids. I stopped in my tracks. "Leo, are you hurt?" Victoria rushed to my side. I pushed her away and picked up the binder from the floor, flipping through it page by page. My childhood sketchbooks, my school projects, my random doodles, and even a perfect score test paper of mine that had once been displayed on a bulletin board. These were all trivial things buried in my memory. Yet Victoria had kept them all in her study. I flipped to the last page and saw a photo I didn't recognize. Victoria instinctively tried to stop me, but I had already pulled the photo from the binder. Judging by the clothes and the surroundings, it was taken on the day of my undergraduate graduation. In the photo, I was looking ahead, my hand on my graduation cap. Standing next to me was a girl in a hat and mask. She looked awkward, almost spilling out of the frame. I had no memory of ever taking such a picture, but the scene in it told me undeniably that Victoria and I had indeed taken a photo together that day. Looking at Victoria, I felt an indescribable emotion stirring inside me. Why does this photo exist? Victoria was silent for a long time before she spoke. "A few days before your graduation, you posted on your social feed about the ceremony, so I went to your school. Back then, you were a star in your university's math department. A lot of students came to talk to you and take pictures with you. I waited for a long time. When the crowd around you finally thinned out, I gathered my courage and I walked over. I asked a girl standing near you if she could take a picture for me. You were busy turning to talk to someone else. The person with the camera must have felt sorry for me and just told you to stand there. I hadn't even posed properly before the shutter clicked. The details, once faded and blurry with time, rushed back into my mind with Victoria's description. I remembered right before graduation, I had won a major math award and was being honored by the university. That day, people kept coming up to me for photos. Sometimes solo shots, sometimes big group photos. I felt like a stationary NPC for photo ops, taking pictures with so many unfamiliar faces. Sometimes I didn't even notice the person next to me had changed before another picture was snapped. In competitions, there's only first place, no second. That was truly my most triumphant year. Many professors had approached me wanting me to become their student and continue my studies. I refused without hesitation. Math was just a subject I minored in because I enjoyed it. Besides math, there were so many other things I loved. And my family urgently needed me to return home to take over the business. A huge sense of absurdity and a delayed ache gripped my heart. I looked at Victoria and laughed until tears streamed down my face. "Victoria, you make me feel like a complete joke. Hiding all these photos in a binder, you don't actually think that's romantic, do you?" Tears kept rolling down my cheeks. I wiped them away again and again. "You like me, don't you, Victoria? Tell me, is that it? But why didn't you tell me?" My voice choked as I moved closer to her, watching me silently. "Love you, watching me get closer and closer to you, even watching me marry you in a suit from our youth until now. Victoria, you never show your feelings. You just let me guess silently for all these years. Every time I tried to have a real talk with you, you always avoided it. Countless times I opened my heart to you, just wanted to hear you say something honest, even just one explanation. But what did I get? You were always so calm. Leo, can you please not make a scene? Just wait a little longer, okay? Now is not the time to talk about this." I had heard those words too many times. I didn't want to hear them anymore. For countless nights, all I got was evasion and silence. 10 years, my voice dropped to a whisper. "I loved you for 10 whole years, Victoria. If my love in the early years was unrequited and my own damn fault, what about the 5 years after we got married? Victoria, couldn't you tell I loved you? Did you think you were the only one who knew the pain of loving someone you couldn't have? Seeing you so high and mighty, so reserved, so untouchable, I didn't even have the courage to question you. Victoria, is it so hard to just tell me you like me too? Or does watching me constantly feel insecure because of you give you a sense of accomplishment. Is that it? Victoria's voice trembled violently. I had never seen her cry so wretchedly. No, it's not like that, Leo. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were in such agony. I never meant to hurt you. I thought love didn't need to be spoken, that as long as two people felt the same way, it was enough. My father, on the other hand, kept telling a woman who didn't love him how much he sacrificed for her, and it just became a burden. So I thought that as long as I was always by your side, giving you expensive gifts and shielding you from all risks, that was true love. I didn't know you were being tormented by the rumors. When I was little, my father would point his finger at me and curse me, saying I was useless, that I didn't know how to please my mother, that I was like a terrifying monster. Leo, every time you were the one who found me at the little park and took me to your house. I've liked you ever since then. Later, my mother's illegitimate daughter cornered me and provoked me. It was you. You got a group of people and taught her a lesson. From that moment on, I could only see you. I don't know when it started, but I got used to looking up at you like I did when we were young, and I forgot my responsibilities as a wife. I'm sorry. I'm used to solving problems my own way. I was too arrogant. This time it was my turn to be stunned. That act of chivalry on a distant afternoon was something I had long forgotten. I never imagined it had taken root in Victoria's heart like a silent seed. But after all these years of tangled growth, what have we gained? A bitter flower called a missed connection. I don't accept that. I don't want that outcome. Victoria, have you ever thought that what I wanted was never money nor your silent, unexpressed devotion? I don't want those expensive gifts that feel like charity and compensation. What I've wanted from beginning to end was just for you to say you care. I wanted you to tell me with your own mouth that you love me, not to leave me guessing forever. I wanted you to tell people that I am your husband, not some irrelevant person whose name you won't even mention in the news. You knew I cared about you, but you just watched me. You just watched me walk towards you again and again, watched me burn myself out in our 5-year marriage without getting a single ounce of warmth in return. The study was thick with an atmosphere of despair. A pile of old photos lay silently on the desk, looking more and more ironic. What really happened between you and Julian? You always said it wasn't important. Can you tell me now? Julian said he was constantly being harassed by kids from the vocational school next door. He begged me. He asked if the next time he ran into them, he could say I was his girlfriend to use my family's name to scare them off. I agreed. Leo, if I had known it would make you misunderstand, I would have never agreed. I have no feelings for him. I didn't then, and I definitely won't in the future. When did you two get so close? The whole thing felt absurd and sarcastic. Before, when he was pestering you, you clearly told me you found him extremely irritating. I had a picture tucked inside my notebook. The book fell on the floor and the photo flew out. Julian saw it. Julian said he knew I liked you and that he could help me figure out a way to win you over. I agreed. I never imagined that from another perspective, the story from back then would be so different. But the years we missed will never come back. Then do you know what Julian did? He showed up at my 16th birthday party, told me he was your boyfriend, and that he hoped I would keep my distance from you. Victoria, you gave him a chance to get close to you. You let his lies grow bigger and bigger. You let him create an online account to document your love story, even if it was all made up. Did you know that back then, everyone knew that account belonged to Julian? Everyone was talking about your romance. Leo, you know I don't really follow online forums. But you couldn't have been completely oblivious, could you? Victoria fell silent. Victoria, on the night of my 16th birthday, I waited for you for a very, very long time, but you never came. Can you tell me now where you went? That day, Julian said someone had asked to meet him and asked if I could go in his place to help scare them off. He kept begging me, so I agreed. And you didn't check your messages? When I asked you if Julian was your boyfriend, why didn't you deny it? Leo, what are you talking about? Victoria looked up abruptly, her face a mask of confusion. I never received any message from you. I can promise you that. Wait, Victoria paused. That day, Julian had my phone. The next day, he said he had accidentally put my phone in his backpack. Leo, I never intended to miss your birthday party. But that day, those thugs hit me over the head, and a passerby took me to the hospital. The watch and card I had gotten for you, they stole everything. With all the truths laid out before me, A wave of exhaustion washed over me. Victoria kept saying she was sorry over and over, but I didn't want to hear it anymore. Let it go, Victoria, I said, pausing. Let's just let it all go between us. The things that had tormented me for so many years, I suddenly didn't want to hold on to them anymore. Maybe we should have kept our distance from the very beginning. Should never have met and definitely should never have married. A marriage born from unwillingness to let go was destined for an ugly end. Who is right and who is wrong doesn't matter anymore. Victoria, let's get a divorce. To keep this going would be torture for both of us. The misunderstandings and hurt run too deep. Even if it's all cleared up now, the scars won't disappear. A broken mirror can't be made whole again. Every time we get close, it would just bring back all the painful, agonizing memories, making things ugly for both of us. Give me one more chance, please, Victoria begged. We still have our son. But you don't love him, I sobbed, my voice raw. Victoria, isn't he your child? Isn't Noah your son? Why won't you even hold him? You say you love me. But if you love someone, can you not love there? When I want a child, I asked for Victoria's opinion. She agreed with no objections at all. But now, looking at Victoria's face, I couldn't see any anticipation or care for that child. Victoria, you don't love our child at all. I'm sorry. Victoria hugged me tightly, her tears soaking my shoulder. At first, I was so excited for our child. I thought I would love him. But when I saw him, my first reaction was fear. He's so small, so beautiful, and he looks so much like you. I'm afraid I won't be a good mother, Leo. I have the genes of parents like that. I'm afraid I'll end up hurting him like they hurt me. I love you, but I don't have the courage to hold our child. I'm afraid I'll hurt him. And when I think about how you almost died on the operating table because of your illness, I get terrified. I'm sorry. I can't bring myself to love anyone but you. No one ever taught me how to be a parent. I don't know what that feeling is. But I can learn, Leo. Give me a chance. Let me learn how to be a mother, okay? I'm just scared of him. Not that I don't love him. He'll be the only child I ever have. My company and my assets will all be his. I handed the printed divorce agreement to Victoria. Let's not drag this out anymore. In the study, Victoria and I were locked in a stalemate for a long, long time. She picked up the fountain pen on the desk, then put it down again. A tear fell with a soft plink onto the smooth paper. The nib of the pen hovered over the blank signature line. After a long while, Victoria wrote her name, Victoria White. The 3 words were sharp and angular. They held a sense of defeat I had never seen before. Victoria looked as if her spine had been removed. She slumped into the ergonomic chair, her body sinking into it. Outside, the sky slowly darkened. The divorce agreement was in duplicate. I took my copy. On the desk sat a wooden picture frame. The photo in it was from our wedding day. In the picture, I was leaning on Victoria's shoulder, smiling brightly down at her. Through faded memories and cruel years, through a grand, unsolvable misconnection that had cost me everything, I faced myself with nothing to say. The breathtaking flutter of first love had long been lost in the dust of silence and waiting, vanishing the moment I turned away. Before I pushed the door open to leave, I took one last look at Victoria. The faint stirrings of our first meeting as teenagers were finally buried deep beneath the heavy dust of time. From now on, we owed each other nothing, and we would never see each other again.